It's a warm welcome to another edition of the Matchbook NFL Betting Podcast. Can you believe it's week 15? I don't even want to say it, guys. I don't even want to say it. Also, what I don't want to say is that last week, best bets not so good. 0 for 4, not great. 2 winners out of 6 in total, 33% return. That's not how we operate here on the Matchbook NFL Betting Podcast. But look, it is what it is. Want to get a quick takeaway from each of you. Adam Chernoff, what do you think from last week? What were you disappointed in? What did you miss? Any key takeaway?
If I would have teased every single game I played, I probably would have done quite well. But that was the most exhausting NFL Sunday of the entire season by far, with some of those games that fell just based on what occurred in the last drive or two of the game. Everything that I bet was right on the number for basically 4 full quarters. It was just a draining Sunday to be a bettor, to say the least.
Yeah, I was on that over in the Jets game. Drew Dinsick, I'm pretty sure you were on that one as well. 10 field goals in total. What an absolute nightmare.
I'd rather not even recount it, to be honest. But overall, key takeaway for me, week 14, it was some very high leverage games. We knew that going in. We talked about what a great week it was going to be. File away for next year. That means the offensive coordinators, the head coaches, they emptied the playbook. I mean, it was all the cards on the table. You know, we're not saving this for the playoffs. Like, this is so important. We need to win this game. We're putting it all out there. Thankfully, if the Niners money line hadn't come home for me, then I don't think I would be. I wouldn't be here right now. I would have to be back at work trying to.
Drew, obviously, people can see you on screen now live. People can see you on screen now live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. But for those in the podcast, where are you at the moment? Because you're totally trolling us with your background right now.
Yeah, so I'm in Hawaii. We're it's a good time of year to get away. Good deal. Easy to get to Hawaii from California, and they have good deals right before Christmas because no one really wants to travel right now. So if you have the flexibility to do it, this is a good way to beat the winter.
Speaking of travel, a man who is nearly on his Christmas holiday as ever, Brad Allen. You and the Whale Capper obviously went against each other on the Saints and the 49ers, but however, you got the Chiefs and the Pats right. But what else was good for you last weekend, Prof?
I suppose, like Adam said, there was just a lot of things. I had a few bets push. I had the Bucks -3, beat the closer on that one by like 20 cents, but took 3 odds against, and obviously pushed that one. Took the Bengals +8 odds against. That went off 6.5. That pushed. So I suppose I saved myself losing some money, but it's still frustrating.
So we had a lot of comments in about you and Drew going toe to toe, disagreeing. So obviously, at Matchbook, we're always keeping up with the markets, and we have a brand new market on site just this evening. It's coming up on your screen there. Will Brad and Drew ever agree on a game again? So yes, it's currently priced at 1.74, which is -135 in US odds. You love that, Prof. And no is 2.3 plus 130. I'm
Good
thinking,
margin.
yeah, I think there's a bit of margin there. Yes, very slight margin. So I'm thinking you probably are going to agree at some stage. That's obviously why we've made that favorite. And Prof, you can't bet on this at the moment. That offer is only open to all other Matchbook customers, just not you. I think the yes is still a very good solid price. You're going to agree on something at some stage, right? So let's move on to this week's games. First up, the Buffalo Bills take on Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday night. Current betting at Matchbook, as you can see on screen now, on the money line, the Buffalo Bills at 2.16, Pittsburgh Steelers at 1.82. The main handicap line is +2. This is coming half a point from yesterday. 36 is the total, slightly down from 36.5, which is a crazy total, but let's look at it. These are two of the best defenses in the NFL, Prof. Is there a value here in the total, or are you looking to take on one of the sides here?
I quite like the total. I'm probably like you. Whenever I see a total this low, I'm looking for a place I want to play the over, essentially, because as long as it's not ridiculous weather, just NFL teams, they do move the ball. Obviously, they're professional athletes. They score points, and it's going to be chilly. But I think last time I checked, there's a 10% chance of precipitation, but it should be decent enough weather. We might even have a little bit of snow, which can often favour the receivers. Obviously, they know where they're going. So a few reasons I quite like the over. A, it is this low total, and I'm looking for reasons to go over. But Pittsburgh with Duck Hodges in there, he's been a significant upgrade. They've been about 12% worse than league average with Hodges in there, compared to 25% below league average in efficiency with Mason Rudolph in there. So it is a significant upgrade, even if he's still below average. Then on the other side of the ball, I talked about it last week with Josh Allen. They are running this no huddle 35% of the time. He has shown improvements. He is in the top half of QBR and things like that over the last month or so. People will, obviously some people think that's variance in itself, and they'll point to last week as that's his true self. But there was nasty wind. There was 20 miles an hour consistent wind gusts of 30 miles an hour against the best pass defense in the league, arguably. So I'm happy to write that off. The strength of this Pittsburgh defense is defensive line, but the Bills have sneakily got a top 10 O-line. So if they can protect Josh Allen, I think he can have some success moving the ball, and they're going to be going quick pace. So I quite like the over 36.
Adam Chernoff, what are you thinking? It's an exceptionally low total. Like Brad said, it's nearly almost an automatic here. But is there value on the total, or are you looking at the side here for a bet?
More so the side for me. There's obviously going to be a lot of support anytime Pittsburgh is playing in a game like this, Sunday Night Football. What really concerns me from the Steelers' perspective, looking at the injury report this morning, James Conner, Jalen Samuels, Juju Smith-Schuster, Vance McDonald, 4 pretty big names from the offense going to be on that report that comes out later today. And during this winning run, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Arizona, those defenses 21st, 16th, and 28th. Would certainly have to agree Hodges is a step up versus Mason Rudolph. We're seeing more throws down the field, seeing a higher intended air yards, higher caught air yards. There's certainly been a more aggressive approach to the Steelers offense. But how different does that look without any of those guys playing? And then also going up to Buffalo 5th in defensive efficiency. I think we still have to remember that this is a third-string quarterback in Hodges who, whether you look back to the start that he had on the road against the Chargers or any of his recent starts against Arizona, against Cleveland as well, this is a third-string quarterback that's really had the benefit of very easy opposing secondaries to throw against, and that's really where a lot of his success has come from. Now, Buffalo, their biggest weakness is defending the run, but if Connors and Samuels both can't go, well, can Snell really beat them? Ingram couldn't from Baltimore, and Lamar Jackson was limited too, which really surprised me as well. Obviously, a very horrific matchup for Buffalo going against this Pittsburgh Steelers defense. We know how Josh Allen, his performance declines when facing a top 5 or top 10 secondary, very different than the easy secondaries that he's been able to take advantage of. But where I think that this becomes a bit of an advantage for Baltimore, if you watch that Arizona game, the guys from the defensive line for Pittsburgh, whether it was Watt, anyone else, were absolutely gassed when Arizona was able to go with a little bit of up-tempo. The refs did their best, really slowing that game down, consistently seeing them under center, holding off for the substitutions. There were times where the ref was still under center with 4 or 5 seconds to go on the play clock, and still in that second half of the game, the Steelers defense was really worn down. So Buffalo now up to 7th in terms of tempo and neutral game situations. And really this comes down to looking at it, right? It's going to be a big game where prep is very important. Offensive game planning is very important. And in that situation, I'm taking McDermott and Dabble over Tomlin and Fichtner pretty well every single time. So I'll look Buffalo outright, and they're also probably the best teaser leg of the season.
Judensic. Oh, well, there you go. A little teaser one in. Judensic, let's be honest about it. You shit all over Josh Allen last week, and you weren't wrong.
I think I got the benefit of some really brutal wind to help keep his stat line down. I think I have to give him credit because down 24-9, that's the time you pack it in and you say, hey, not our day. We give up. They still had an opportunity, and he threw a pretty damn good pass. It just happened to be on the very well covered route that would have tied the game at the very end there. And so I think, I would say I took away some more positives about Josh Allen in that matchup against the Baltimore game than I did against the Cowboys, who we now know their defense is worth virtually nothing. So I think, and sorry to anyone who bet no on will we ever agree again, like full agreement here with both Brad and Adam. I think the over is a beauty. I think the Bills are a beauty. I think the Bills team total over is a beauty. The Bills as the best teaser leg of the year is intriguing to hear from Adam. Usually, road dogs on teasers, but hey, it's a if you can get it over 7, I don't know how Duck Hodges is lighting it up against this pass defense. The two matchups that I think were pointed out well. I don't like Duck Hodges in general. With the limited weapons that he has at his disposal, going up against a legitimate pass defense, I think this spells enormous amount of trouble for Pittsburgh if they're ever down in the game. And the way that they get pressure, the way they disrupt teams with their strength on the defensive line going up against a very good O-line for Buffalo is going to be trouble. I think Buffalo kind of dictates this one wire to wire, to we're being honest. And I love the fact that they have a coaching advantage. Sean McDermott is one of my favorite young kind of up-and-coming coaches in the league right now. What he's done this year has been incredible. To a degree, we were kind of shown correctly that Buffalo is sort of Baltimore Junior. We saw the way that Baltimore matched up with Pittsburgh earlier this season, on the road, and I think this does set up well for Buffalo to get a pretty important signature win. Won't be at all surprised. I think if I'm concerned about anything we've talked about so far, I'm a little concerned about the over on the basis of I could see a scenario where Pittsburgh only gets to say 10 or 13 points.
Okay, I like that. Adam Chernoff, you wanted to come back and Josh Allen there.
Yeah, the one thing I would say that even though there certainly was the win, Baltimore came with one of the highest blitz rates of any team in the season, and they were essentially saying if Josh Allen wants to beat us deep, he can go ahead and make those throws. And again, to an extent, that's wind sort of factored in a little bit, but it was really concerning to me to see how many open throws that he had that he completely missed. So Baltimore, that defensive game plan from Wink was really just like, let Allen beat us. And they were fully confident in letting him try to do that, and he wasn't even close. So a bit of concern with that against Pittsburgh, but I think that there's ultimately a better prep knowing the pressure that Pittsburgh can generate and what Allen can do.
Okay, well, we're attacking this, guys. So we're taking the over 36 currently at 1.94 at Matchbook. Are we taking Buffalo Broth +2? Are we taking money line?
Taking money line, right?
And there's even a thumbs up from the whale capper. Sort of 1.74, like we said, cashes, easy win. Honestly, my odds compiling skills are so bad these days. I've been out of the game for so long, guys. Just one of those things. Got that one.
You might want to wait, though, right?
Now,
you might want to wait if you're looking for 3. It'll take a lot to get there, and if it does, it won't be around for long. But this is Pittsburgh and Sunday Night Football. There's going to be a reversal, and Buffalo money is going to come in, but you can't discount how much attention the Steelers are going to draw the rest of the way. Yeah,
totally. And kind of like 1.5, 2 is kind of a dead number. But look, you can get 2.16 in the money line on the Bills at the moment. So that seems to be the consensus play. Right, let's move on to the AFC South game. And like, guys, this is potentially a cracker as well. Look, let's have a look at the current betting here at Matchbook. The Texans 2.33 on the money line. The Tennessee Titans 1.73, 2.5 is the main line, 2.05 for the Texans getting a start. 50 is the total. That is rocketed up from 47.5. Adam Chernoff, start with you here first. On your own YouTube channel, you gave a pretty damning assessment of the Titans in the past 24 hours. They're so hot out right now. What are they in a 4-game winning streak? And it's going to be so hard for bettors to go against it. Then we look at the other side of the coin. The Texans laid an absolute egg at home to the Broncos after that big win against the Patriots. But which way you like it? Going off your assessment last night, you must be on the Texans.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a green light to the over. There's no question about that. If you're getting better than 51, you take that all day. That's a great number. But I have to go Houston too. Look, Ryan Tannehill in this offense has been fantastic, right? But I don't like Ryan Tannehill was never this terrible quarterback. It was surprising to see him listed as a backup to start the season. And when you put a quarterback that's really accurate throwing the football behind decent blocking and give him some weapons in space, like he's going to have success. And that's what we're seeing with Tannehill is he's like top 3 in pretty well every passing statistic that matters since he took over for the Titans back in week 7. But I mean, we're getting to a situation where Tannehill is turning into what we saw with the better part of Jared Goff just a year ago, where it was, again, a quarterback that has some blocking in front of him and weapons that can get open in space within a really good scheme. And he's just having success based off of that. I'm not taking away from anything the Titans are doing offensively. I think they're putting up great numbers and they're well deserving. But the schedule that they've faced really brings in some questions for me and what level they can sustain this play at. But really the thing that I'm concerned about for Texans fans and bettors is looking at this Titans secondary. They're 21st on the season in pass defense success rate, 27th since Ryan Tannehill took over, and that's against the third easiest schedule of opposing passers this entire season. And if we want to look at any of the grading or put a qualitative stance on that, the starting corners for Tennessee, 41st and 54th out of 119. The safeties are 53rd and 12th out of 86. And the only opponent that Tennessee has faced inside the top 10 for passing efficiency offense this season was Kansas City. KC went for 433 passing, over 530 total yards, 8.2 yards per attempt, and a 53% success rate. Now they get Houston, who, from just the numbers and efficiency standpoint, passing the football specifically, a step up from what they faced in Kansas City. This is an enormous step up overall in terms of competition the Titans will face. I think what we saw from Houston last week was Bill O'Brien and the Texans being Bill O'Brien and the Texans, coming off an enormous win, then a huge letdown against the Broncos defense that's extremely good. Now they get a very favorable matchup across the board. This is Titans scoring a ton of points. This is the Titans covering in the game going over 50 as well.
All right, strong case for the Texans and the over for Adam. Drew Dinsick, what are you thinking on this one? Like I said, it's going to be kind of difficult enough to back the Texans after looking at that last week, but that was a typical kind of Texans game, wasn't it? They have the big win. They're expected to win and even cover that, 8 or 9 points, and this might be a good spot for the Texans.
Yeah, I think a lot of what Adams is saying is rational, is reasonable. Tannehill is not as good as the numbers we bear out. They're right now he looks like a potential Hall of Famer. The way that he was to carry this performance on for a couple of seasons, that's where you would be, and we know he's not quite that good. So he's going to come back to earth eventually. But I would point to that game that the Texans just played against the Broncos and say, well, yeah, it was a letdown spot. Yeah, they were coming off a huge motivational high of being at home and winning a primetime game against the Patriots. Yeah, they had been home for quite a while. And their price was inflated. But I thought their defensive performance was extremely concerning. They really gave up so much to Drew Lock and the Broncos in a way that I would be more concerned that you're now going to take this unit on the road in Tennessee. You're going up against a very dynamic, balanced attack between pass and run. You're going up against an offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith in Tennessee He's figuring it out on the fly. He is figuring it out. He's using so much play action. It is completely elevating Tannehill's performance. Tannehill's good at one thing. He's very good at one thing, in my opinion. He can throw a very good, precise pass down the sidelines in like the 11 to 20-yard range. The Texans are way vulnerable there. He is going to have no problem extending drives, if completing long third down, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, he'll get them in this game. And if they have a lead, I think they can lean on Derrick Henry in a way that eats the clock and keeps Deshaun Watson on the sidelines. I haven't played this game partially because I took Titans plus 350 to win the South before last week, not expecting at all that the Texans were going to give away a game there. I just kind of felt like hey, if they're going to be favored in this spot, if they can win a couple, then they're in the mix. At 350 is insane. So, but now sitting here, I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to hedge out at this point. I'll wait until week 17. When they're on the road, it'll be a much better position potentially to try to grab a little equity there. But this is a bad spot for the Texans. I gotta say, I look at the Titans defense, and yes, they have issues in pass coverage. Yes, they're not like a world-beating unit. They're probably middling overall in the NFL. But if Will Fuller's not healthy, then you kind of don't have that piece that can really hit them where it hurts, in my opinion. And I think the Texans are going to be playing from behind. They're going to be playing catch-up. They're going to be putting a lot of pressure on Watson to make miraculous plays, comeback drives. This sets up pretty well for a live betting sort of a game. I do think there will be some trade-offs. There will be some swings. This has kind of the pre-playoff feel of spirit that we saw when we, Niners Saints last week and Pats Chiefs last week. There's going to be a lot of high leverage moments and some pretty miraculous, some empty the playbook kind of stuff here. I agree with the over. I think it's still bettable even at over 50.
Who put up 47.5 in the first place? It was a terrible.
I can't imagine in any world where that was a reasonable number. It's not like they ever have especially bad weather conditions. Issues are tough in Nashville. So I don't know. I think I think Tennessee team total over is worth a look as well. I think they get to 28 here pretty comfortably, and I think I think the Titans get this win. I just I'm not seeing it with the Texans right now. Without Fuller, they're kind of missing that one piece. And maybe Fuller plays, but he's got a hamstring issue. He's a speed guy. He could get hurt on the first time they send him deep. So this is not a great spot for the Texans.
Brad Allen, what are you thinking about here? There seems to be a bit of consensus with the over, even at 50, at 1.96 at Matchbook. Drew is kind of leaning with the Titans here, while Adam likes the Texans. What are you thinking?
I'm a big fan of the over as well. When you're looking at a total, I think you want to look at things like injuries, pace, and then I guess the offensive and defensive efficiency. And to my eyes, pretty much all three of those line up towards the over. The Titans are going to be missing their possibly two or three of their top corners at the minute. Well, one's on IR, Malcolm Butler. Adoree Jackson missed last week and he's questionable again. And the third corner is also questionable, which is not ideal when you've got Deshaun Watson and the gang coming to town. Obviously, if Fuller does play, that'd be huge. And so the Texans' defense, on the other hand, so we know Titans' defense is bad. Texans' defense, since JJ Watt went out, they've been dead last in the NFL in pass rush win rate. And then, all right, well, you rely on your corners. Well, we know they're terrible as well. So I think Tannehill should continue this run, to be honest. He is number one in Pro Football Focus's like passer grade from a clean pocket, passer grade without play action. Basically, all the sticky stats are all saying he's playing very, very well. He's also overperforming a bit in things like passes under pressure. So that he should regress a bit. He's probably not just the best player that ever lived, which is how he's been playing recently. But against this defense, he is doing well in the sticky metrics as well. And I think that he will put up points. And I think Deshaun Watson will just come roaring back at him because Titans can't cover anyone either. So, and they both play in top 10 in pace over the last month as well. So yeah, I think the over is a very good bet.
All right, over 50, flat 50 available at the moment at 1.95. Adam, just before we come off that, just let me talk about the numbers there. 50, 49. There isn't a whole pile of difference there, really, is there? With those ones, they're not massively key numbers.
No, you kind of stuck in between two keys of 47 and 51. So if you can get better than 51, that's really the key here.
Okay, no bother. That sounds good. Let's move on to another game we want to talk about: the Minnesota Vikings head into Los Angeles. And let's be honest about it, the Vikings pretty much will be the home team here with all those Minnesotans trying to get some warm weather into their lives at Christmas time. Current betting at Matchbook, the Vikings 1.73 on the money line, the Chargers 2.31. Main handicap line here at Matchbook are the Chargers getting a 3-point start at 1.88. 44.5 is the total. Drew Dinsick, I will come to you here first with this one. You're big on the Chargers last week, and we kind of mocked you and scoffed at you, but you had that game won in the first quarter. Staying with Phillip Rivers this week?
I think so. And it's not even really Phillip Rivers. He's kind of the weak link on this team, and I don't think it's even really up for debate. They are so talented at every other position. They are effective quarterback play away from being probably a top 3 team in the AFC. I think I'm woke on what's going on next year for the Chargers, because it looks to me like Phillip Rivers' arm is dead. But if he may decide to call it a career, and if they can get a more effective passer in here, then the Chargers could be live next year. I particularly think down the last quarter of the season here, they are going to be spoilers. I don't think any team wants to come up against these Chargers. The Minnesota Vikings defense, the Lions made them look good last week because they are so ineffective and they were missing so many pieces and they had such poor quarterback play. But the Chargers, with the likes of Eckler and Gordon healthy, with the receiving core, which is absolutely all universe, they're going to be able to put up points on this unit. Mike Hughes, Xavier Rhodes, these guys can be picked on in the passing game. Even if your quarterback has a dead arm and he's not throwing lasers, he's just kind of shot putting up, the soft passes. I still think with the weapons you have in the passing game and their ability to get open, their ability to create separation, I think you're going to have a pretty dangerous and balanced attack for the Chargers in this game. And I think it's going to be incumbent upon Vikings offense to go score for score. And they're a little battered. They're a little beaten. They're not 100%. They may be thinking a little bit towards the next couple weeks here as they go toe-to-toe with the Bears and the Packers to win their division. This sets up pretty poorly for them, in my opinion. And travel this time of year is difficult as well. So even though they won't have like a hostile environment as far as the crowd goes, I do think that the fact that they have to travel to LA is not worth nothing. So this is a nice spot, I think, to continue to back the Chargers while they make some noise late in the season and play spoiler.
Okay, what's the angle? So are you doing +3? Are you doing money line?
Money line. Oh yeah, this is my dog look for the week for sure. Yeah,
okay,
I like 2.31 is what I just saw. I think that's nice. Yeah, that's a nice value.
2.31 currently a match. But Adam, what are you thinking on this one?
Well, I've never been to Carson, California, so Whale may be able to speak better on this. But the total opened 45.5. It's come down to 44.5 on rumors of wind in Carson, California. I don't know how severe that wind can be at 17 miles per hour. But unless there's something I'm missing about the stadium, I don't know why this number is coming down. Xavier Rhodes and Mike Hughes are both questionable. Maybe that's an upgrade for the Vikings defense. I don't know. But look, I look at this game. I see two secondaries that rank 20 and 27th, respectively, in pass success rate defense and 20th and 30th in rush success rate defense, going against offenses that rank 10th and 4th in pass efficiency offense, and two top 10 running games that are pretty dynamic in how they present themselves. Minnesota with the outside zone running scheme, and then the Chargers with their dual option out of the backfield between Eckler and Gordon. So these are two defenses I'm quite low on. Obviously, the Chargers look a little bit better with some of the guys they've got back in the last couple of weeks, but this is still not above average unit by any stretch, and nor the Minnesota Vikings. We saw it on Monday Night Football, and as Whale pointed out really well, we didn't see it against the Lions because of David Blau and the ineffectiveness of that offense moving the football. So I think we have to go off of sort of the priors that we were establishing with this Vikings defense. I don't know how big of a factor that wind will be. Obviously, both of these quarterbacks pretty dependent on taking those deep shots down the field, whether it's Cousins off play action or Rivers just sort of shot putting it with his full body weight to any receiver that can make a jump ball catch anywhere on the sidelines. But if that wind's not a factor, I'm not sure how this game doesn't go over the total of 44.5.
Just before I come to you, Brad, Drew, do you actually get wind in California?
Yeah, for sure. There are places where there's wind for sure, coastal areas, things like that. Carson's protected fairly well by the Palos Verdes Peninsula, which is, kind of shields it from some of the, offshore breezes. I wouldn't expect wind to be a factor at all in this one.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Just thinking back to last season, I've just never seen any weather affected games or bar obviously the odd thunder show or whatever else. Brad, what are you thinking on this one?
I agree with both of them. Probably Adam more. I think I'll put that number at 44.5 just stood out to me. Just if you look at over the last 5 games or so, just to try and get an idea of where these offenses are there. I think 4th and 5th in the NFL in success rate. The defenses are both vulnerable on the back end, and I just don't see any reason why they wouldn't just chuck the ball all over the place and blow past this total, to be honest.
Yeah, 44.5, a very bettable one. And so, yeah, let's lock in both of those over 44.5 and the Chargers and the money line 2.31. We'll come back and we'll do a recap of those in due course. Let's move on to the fourth game we're covering here on tonight's broadcast. The Chicago Bears at the Green Bay Packers, an old NFC North rivalry. Current betting at Matchbook, you can back the Chicago Bears 2.97, the Green Bay Packers at 1.47 on the money line. 4 points the main handicap. The Bears obviously getting a start, 2.03, and the total is 40.5. And Brad, I will stick here with you. Are we buying back in on Mitch Trubisky just at the right time?
He seems to have figured something out, doesn't he? I wonder if it's just literally the fact that he's willing to run again. We've spoken a fair bit in the past of that he may have had a shoulder injury. Well, he had a shoulder injury at the end of last year, and perhaps early this year he was unwilling to take off and take hits again. You saw that in a few times in that Thanksgiving game where he just was contact shy, and I wonder if he's, if that's got to him, if he's heard the criticism, because obviously last week against the Cowboys he got 60 yards rushing. What was quite interesting, this was a next-gen stat that was posted. He had 5 rushes against the Cowboys where he reached a max speed of 15 miles an hour, which was the same number that he had in weeks 1 to 11. So it seems he's healthier than he's been all year, for whatever reason that is. And it's reflected in the wider numbers. So just over the last 4 games, Bears at 47% success rate, which is better than the Packers. They're at 45, gaining 5.2 yards a play, better than the Packers at 4.8 yards per play. We know the Bears have the better defense all season on the season-long metrics. So it looks a bit to me like we've got an offense which could be better than the Packers. I don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers at the minute. So last week against the Redskins, his offensive line had a 98% pass block win rate. So literally he had near perfect protection. And he still couldn't put up points. He was still sacked 4 times. He was holding onto the ball. I don't really know what's going on. It's not like the Redskins are good on the back end.
Who have they beaten realistically? Like, how were they the number 2 seed in the NFC? Obviously, I'm just thinking back. Like in my head, their schedule has been pretty soft. Yeah,
it definitely has. They the best scalp on their record. Someone like the Chiefs, who they played with a backup quarterback. They played the Niners, got obliterated. One of the signature wins was against the Raiders, who that win's looking worse and worse every week. Massey Peabody, who I like to quote a lot, they've got the Bears 3 points better than the Packers. So, according to them, this line should be pick 'em, and we're getting 4.5. And yeah, as I say, they're definitely trending in different directions as far as I can see. So yeah, I like the Bears plus the 4.
Jordan's sake, we're coming from 2 broadcasts where yourself and Brad didn't agree on anything, and I'm thinking you're actually agreeing with Brad as well on this one.
100%. Yeah, that was a great breakdown. The only thing I can add, or the only thing I'll disagree with, is I don't think Trubisky was unwilling to run, and that was what was holding back this offense over the first half of the season. The way that that Nagy crafted the offense from Jump Street, all through, and all of the quotes you heard in the offseason, everything you saw in the preseason, he made it clear, I'm going to test Mitch Trubisky this season. We are going to make him try to make difficult reads in the passing game. We're not going to let him off the hook where, he can scramble and run. And, we're not going to pick up cheap wins. We are going to focus specifically on developing him as a passer. Right. And it wasn't working. It didn't work in the preseason. It didn't work in the offseason. It didn't work through 8 weeks. And I think he made his point to management, hey, this is who you've got. You don't have, the next great passing quarterback in this league. I don't think you have a guy that can win you, for the next 10 years. So I think a lot of it was sending a message to management of who Mitch Trubisky was. Lo and behold, they get some wins anyway. They have a real soft middle part of their schedule where they pick up 2 wins against the Lions with backup quarterbacks. Now they're kind of in the mix again. And so it's like, okay, Nagy's like, well, actually, we can somewhat salvage our season. We can get to 10 wins here if we, kind of go back to what was working, and I think that they're just crafting plays for Trubisky where he's got 1 read. They're not asking him to make the second read. They're saying, okay, this is where you're going on this play. You make 1 read. If it's not open, you run. Right. And so they've simplified everything for him in a way that I think is completely, made them much more dangerous offensively. I agree that, in terms of power numbers, I have them better than the Packers, not 3 points better, but enough better that I like Bears plus 4 a lot in this spot. And I think the over is probably worth a pretty decent look as well here because the Packers defense is fool's gold. And Aaron Rodgers, this is not like something new, shocking what's going on here. He's been this way for the last couple of years. He has not unlike Tom Brady with his wide receivers, he has chemistry issues. He has trust issues with these guys. If they're not where he expects them to be, then he's not willing to throw the ball and put the ball up for grabs. So he's, his risk aversion is noted and is obvious. And if he's behind in this game, then I think they're in deep trouble because the Bears defense, if they can still do one thing great, and that's put pressure on you and take the ball away from you. So I think this sets up pretty well for the Bears to play spoiler for the Packers and keep their playoff hopes, albeit slim. I think they get the win here and keep their hopes alive.
Brad, I'll come back to you in a second just about the weather, but Adam Chernoff, you were nodding your head there, Drew, a lot of what he was saying about Mitchell Trubisky. What's your take on it? Are the Bears have they turned the corner with Trubisky?
Will stole my notes again. That's spot on, 100%. I don't think it's a turning of the corner. I think it's just a dialing back of the complexity, as Will pointed out. I really don't have too much more to add to that, but certainly from just following what has been coming out of those press conferences for like the last 4 months, essentially, you can sort of see a turn in how things are being taken. And this was an offense that, in theory, coming into the year, I think there was a lot of optimism around for some of the pieces they have and some of the guys that they have that can generate space and get open. And we've seen that the last couple of weeks where they've maximized that. So it'd be interesting to see how this team finishes. Starting price here was 6.5. So certainly
that's quite interesting. I was going to ask you about that. So that was a look ahead line. It's probably from about 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago. So what has happened in the meantime to justify that 2.5 point swing, or is it justified, Adam?
Well, I think it's certainly justified, right? We see the Bears pretty much control 4 full quarters against the Dallas Cowboys outside that opening drive, and then the Packers struggled for another week. I don't think there's necessarily as much of a case that can be made for the Bears outperforming their expectation for this game as there can be just sort of a willingness to fade the Packers in this spot and going forward. We saw now 2 weeks in a row the Packers prices come down, open to close. Already this week it's moved pretty significantly against them. And look, this is a team 32nd in defensive success rate against the run. They consistently play dime with extra defensive backs to force opponents to look at something other than passing the football. The last in generating negative plays. So this is a spot where the Bears, if they do choose to get Trubisky a little bit more mobile or they look to run the ball a little bit, they're going to be consistently in short down and distances where this offense is most comfortable. But the Green Bay Packers as a whole, minus 0.4 in net yards per play. They're one of 3 teams right now in the NFL with a negative net differential and a winning record. And obviously there's the biggest disparity between 10-3 and minus 0.4. The Seahawks second, and they're just a net neutral 0.0. So when you're giving up nearly half a yard more per play than you're gaining, and you're being priced with these big price tags, that's a pretty daunting task to overcome for any team, especially when you look at this Packers team where their offense is trending in the wrong direction. Of the 10 wins this year for Green Bay, they've been outgained in the yards per play basis in 6 of them. So some very misleading victories for the Packers, which hurts me to say as a big supporter of Green Bay coming into the season for what I thought they could put together. But I think as the other 2 guys I mentioned here, this price tag pretty big.
Drew Dinsick, I'll come back to you in a second, but Brad Allen, it's Lambeau, it's December. There's got to be some weather angle here.
From what I'm seeing, it's going to be 8 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about minus 12, and then some wind chill whipping, wind chill whipping around to make it minus 4 or minus 20 Celsius. So possibly going to be. You remember that Minnesota Seahawks game where I think it was similar weather and it finished like 9-6 because it was just literally too cold to do anything. I wonder if we might be heading that way.
Drew Dinsick, you wanted to come back in. You obviously have no weather worries, minus 6 or whatever at the moment. But what are you thinking elsewhere in this game?
It's easy to forget that weather is a thing. You're in sunny and 80 every day. But yeah, no, that's a good point, and I think in general the weather is keeping me from making a play here on the over. But to comment real quickly on the adjustment in price, not only is there a little bit of a situational adjustment in my opinion here, where the Bears are getting extra time and extra rest here, coming off of Thursday. That matters this time of year. If you've got a couple extra days to get your team and your body healthy and get your put together your playbook in a way that attacks your opponent, that's huge. On top of that, Bears also getting back Akeem Hicks. He has been kind of noted as a huge factor in their pass rush because if you have multiple guys you have to account for on the defensive line, all of a sudden you can't double up on Khalil Mack and take him out of the game. So Akeem Hicks is potentially a factor here in terms of, number 1, limiting the success of Aaron Jones, and number 2, helping the Bears pass rush look more like it looked in 2018 than what we've seen over the last 8 weeks.
Good stuff. Prof, betting angle wise, so we're going to take +4, 2.03, or are we going to look for 4.5 elsewhere and see what kind of price we can get?
Let's take the 2.03. Yeah, works for me.
I know you'd say that odds against. You love those odds against. Getting that extra bit of juice. Good man. It pays in the long run, Prof, doesn't it?
Stack up the edges.
There you go. Yeah. Any bit of an edge you can get at all. I'd be kind of on the opposite. I love taking half points, extra point, but Prof, you win in the long term. Okay, guys, let's I think that's 4 games we've covered there. Like this week is kind of, we looked ahead even a couple of weeks ago, guys, and it was kind of one of those weeks where we're kind of thinking, this is kind of just not a great one to begin with. I think we have some pretty solid angles there. But let's do any other business for a while, guys, and now we can see where we go from there. Drew Linsick, I'll start with you first, mate. What are you thinking elsewhere? Anything else kind of jumping out at you, right now?
Yeah, I wanted to comment on the Raiders. A lot being made of their last ever game in the Coliseum. This is, even though it's week 15, people sometimes lose track of, okay, this is your last home game. Well, this isn't just the last home game for the season for Raiders. This is the last time they'll ever play.
Ever, yeah.
Yeah, that's meaningful. I mean, you saw when it looked like that was a possibility last year, you got an A++ effort out of the Raiders on Christmas Eve against the Broncos. It was a pretty inspiring performance, I remember. So going up against the lifeless Jaguars who can't stop the run, they're potentially going to have Jacobs available. I think that's meaningful. I don't know that laying the 6.5 is the best way to attack this. They probably score more comfortably offensively here than they do just kind of comfortably cover the spread. So maybe look for Oakland team total when those numbers pop, or the full game over may be in play. Because Jacksonville's defense has regressed to the point where they're a clear bottom 5 unit in the NFL, especially stopping the run. And this time of year, that's the kiss of death. So I think Oakland puts on a pretty inspiring performance in their black hole finale.
The Jags have packed it in, Drew. Finished. Done.
Jags, Panthers both have packed it in. Pretty obviously.
That's always a key thing to look at this time of year too, Drew, isn't it? Because there are some teams, you see the likes of the Falcons who are well out of contention, the Bucs who are just about out of contention, and they're still playing hard. And it's something really key from week 14 onwards to kind of get a feel for the teams that are trying and the teams that are not.
Yeah. For obviously the Bengals, the Redskins, and the Dolphins, you would think would be clear and obvious tanking teams, but they're all three are playing harder than the likes of the Panthers, the likes of the Lions, and the likes of the Jaguars right now. So I think, just in terms of current form power ratings, you're probably talking about those 3 teams at the very bottom of the NFL right now. So I don't mind picking on them even with a not great Raiders team laying 6.5 at home. I think they still get the job done and put on a good finale performance.
The Bengals have got to be very careful. There'll be no Joe Burrow back in Ohio next year. To be very, very careful. This is one of those things they might fall out. So, Brad, anything else jumping up for you?
I quite like this Kansas City Denver under 46. You might get 46.5 if you want. Another one. I'm always trying to play under when teams are playing each other for the second time. That's 60% angle. Just hitting to the under. But then I think there's some quite nice, on-field matchups which play in our favour here. So starting with the Chiefs defence, they're kind of a top 5 pass defence now. The only way the Patriots moved the ball against them was like trick plays and pass interference and stuff. They can barely move the ball at all. They can play some nice man coverage. Drew Lock is getting some plaudits here for the way he tore apart the Texans, who I suspect weren't concentrating and were trash anyway. And there were a lot of very fine margins that went his way. I think it was like a Noah Fant 70-yard play where it was literally an inch away being picked off for 6. Stephen Ruiz, who I quote a lot, he looked at the all 22 and said he was nowhere near as good as the final stat line suggests. He's quite slow processing the field. So I suspect the Broncos could struggle moving the ball. And then Mahomes is not quite who he was. There might be a variety of reasons. So just the weeks 1 to 6, when Mahomes was at his very best, Kansas City were 26% better than average offensively. Since he's returned, they're 15%. So it's a fair drop off. A few reasons, I think. The interior of the offensive line is not that good. You saw a few times against the Patriots, Mahomes is throwing off his back foot. He's bailing out early. He doesn't want to stand in there and take more hits. And he's also injured. He's got that gammy knee. He's now got a gammy hand, potentially as well. He was listed as questionable. He's obviously going to play, but he's not going to be 100%. And if they're up second half, they're going to just run the ball and try and keep him out of harm's way. And then finally, we've seen with Andy Reid a fair bit. The more time he has to prepare in the start of the year, he comes out and they just destroy everyone. But the scheme, because the scheme is so good, obviously it gets figured out towards the end of the year oftentimes. So I wonder if that's happening as well. So it just seems to me there's a lot of factors pointing to the under. So yeah, I think that's a nice one under 40.
Adam Chernoff, is anything else catching your eye from elsewhere?
Pretty quiet week overall for me outside of that Houston and over spot. Probably just talked myself into taking a worse than opening number with the Chicago Bears this week after we sort of went back and forth about it. There was one that it's more of a fade against the Packers than it is necessarily backing the Bears, but I think at that price, probably going to end up putting that to my account shortly this morning.
All right, sounds good. Let's move on. Let's actually just do a quick recap before we go to the underdog and best bet. So first game up, we're taking over 36 in the Bills at the Steelers. We're also having a look at the Bills money line. There's a consensus there definitely on over 50 in the Texans Titans. Drew loves Chargers money line, so we're going to lock that one in. There's a bit of consensus from the other guys at 44.5 with the over there. Wind be damned. We don't really think there's going to be much wind in Carson, California. And we're taking the Bears +4, 2.03. I think we've got some good bets there, guys. From a week that, let's be honest about it, we started this week and we were kind of going, oh my God, this could be one of these weeks that we could just take off. It's a tough slate, but sometimes when you dig into it, you start finding a bit of value. And speaking of finding a bit of value, let's have a live underdog from each of you guys. Mythical 10-pound bet here. Have it on something at a flyer. Who's going to cause a shock this week? Because there's always shocks at this time of the season. Couple last week. Brad Allen, who are you thinking there is the most live underdog this week?
I think the Bears go into Lambeau and overturn these Packers.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense given you're back in +4. Adam Chernoff, who are you thinking there?
Well, I don't know how shocking it would be for the Texans to win, but if we're just looking at an underdog from price, that would be the one that stands out to me.
Drew Dinsick, are you going to agree with Brad Allen, or you've got something else for me?
No, I agree with Brad, but I like the Chargers. We talked about that. I like the Bills. Bills, Chargers, Bears, all three dogs this week.
Anyone like the Redskins, guys?
Haskins is really bad, but I suppose the Eagles have just no one left to catch the ball. You see, Josh McCown was going to have to play receiver on Monday night.
Really?
That was the emergency plan there. So there's a chance that that the Eagles are just really bad.
I think it's a very clear thing that they're really bad.
You could make a case for the Redskins, I think, couldn't you?
Yeah, just something that's going to jump it on. Drew, did you want to come back in there for a second?
You're going to get some funky looks from the Eagles. They're going to have like some 3 tight ends, some weird stuff like that. Or some weird. You're going to get some more running backs, more tight ends, I think. And honestly, I thought Ward, who's their wide receiver, one at the end of the game against the Giants. He has moves. He can get separation.
He absolutely can.
He was doing better than Nelson Aguilar has been doing for the first 12 weeks of the season. So I think the Eagles probably get a win. But if you ask me for a solid handicap on the NFC East right now, I'm just giving you a shrug. I have no freaking clue who this is. So they all have such incredible, impressive, fatal flaws that somebody will win, and for all I know, they'll be a favorably priced dog at home in the playoffs against the likes of Seattle, and I'll probably be like, I guess we're doing this. We're taking the points with the Cowboys or the Eagles here, but it's really something that the NFC East is such a mess right now.
Yeah, I'm blocking out the guys here with the banner, so I'm just going to go into my own screen here. So guys, if you don't have a matchbook going, you do want to get involved today. If your first bet loses, you get a £10 bonus. You get your money back. And you can join now at offer.matchbook.com. Terms and conditions apply, of course, to be over 18. Please do gamble responsibly at all times. Right, guys, let's go to best bets section. I'm thinking we probably had our best bets in those already. But look, let's have a go at it anyway. Brad Allen, best bet of the week for you, sir.
Bears +4, please.
Bears +4, straight out of the stalls. Adam Chernoff, what are you thinking?
Green light on that. Houston, Tennessee over 50.
Love that one. Absolutely love that one. Drew Dinsick.
I'm going to throw an over at you. one that we didn't talk about. So a little surprise shock here at the end. I like the over on Monday Night Football. Saints Colts goes over 45.5. I don't think this is especially a good number at all. Hasn't been really talked about or looked at much. Saints have lost another couple of very important pieces on defense. I don't think in any way, shape, or form that the run-stopping Saints that we know of from the middle part of the season is going to show up and limit Indianapolis's ability to be live in this game. This is going to be another game where the Saints are going to have to put the ball in Drew Brees' hand and make him make plays down the stretch and try to eke out a win here. But I do think this is a back-and-forth score-for-score kind of game, and I think it sails over this 45.5. I'm not 100% sure what's going on with this total because you have two pretty live offenses and two pretty sad state of defenses here, as coming into a primetime matchup with a lot on the line.
I like that one as well. So I'm kind of stuck on two totals, guys. You might be able to talk me in or talk me out of this one. I'm going to go back to the well with the Dolphins this week, 45.5. Same venue, this time playing against the Giants, who are equally shit on defense as the Jets. Jets might be actually small, but not bad on defense, by the way, even with all their injuries. I think the Giants are worse. I think they get the ball across the line this week. So that's 46.5. The other one I'm thinking about is the Bucks team total. This is one we've kind of attacked in recent weeks. Now, I'm pretty sure they're without Mike Evans. So you're holding back, Adam. Want to talk me on it?
Jameis can't pick up a football.
Yeah.
It was It was announced as we were recording. His hands screwed up. He's practicing no football.
Okay, that's why I ask you guys because you're always on this.
The Dolphins over for that to get home. You're going to need Giants points. The second half of that game against the Eagles, against that pretty sad state of affairs Eagles defense, the Giants.
But they're not as bad as the Dolphins defense.
I don't know.
In the secondary,
either way, Eli Manning. Do you know the farthest he moved the ball down the field after halftime? It was his own 41. That was the farthest that the Giants offense was able to move the ball offensively against the Eagles in that sad state of affairs with the Eagles pass defense especially. I don't know about I don't know if you're going to get the points you need out of the Giants to get that over home.
What about the Dolphins team total?
Dolphins team total. Green light on that as far as I'm concerned. That's a nice one.
That's clever. I like that, Prof. Like that. If you're having doubts, generally backing overs. If you're having doubts of one team that are not going to get the points, which I am with the Lions and Bucks game, but obviously that's one's all to say. So Dolphins team total for me. Thanks for talking me out of those two, by the way, guys. It's Wednesday. I haven't put my money down yet, so very much appreciate you talking me out of that. Anything else, guys? Anything else jumping out? I think we're all done.
I just want to add this, as far as record keeping purposes go. Brad's under on the Chiefs Broncos was really sound. That I was kind of interested in thinking about that a little bit, but I hadn't really worked the full handicap yet. I think that was an extremely solid look.
Prof, another one I wanted to ask you about last week. We locked in the Bengals plus 8.5, and that went down to 7.5. I saw 6.5 around close to kick. Did you get the 8.5 that time? It was obviously a very key number given how the game landed on 8.
Well, if when I post bet slips, I normally bet 8.5, 8, 7.5 at different numbers.
Yeah.
So my largest bet was on 8 at 2.06 or something, and obviously that went off at minus 130, and I thought I was a genius, and then it pushed. So no, I didn't really get the benefit of that. No.
All right, that's one of those things. Okay, but in fairness, you advised it on insights at 8.5. So yeah, you got the winner there. Speaking of which, you can get Adam's preview and Brad's preview probably Thursday or Friday this week at insights.matchbook.com. Always very detailed breakdowns and always a good few winners. Adam, how did you do on Insights last week? Bounce back?
It was about my 14th split of the season. I had one bad week, and I swear I've split every other week of what I posted. So it's pretty remarkable.
Prof, you're going well on Insights.
Yes, although first losing week in a while, I was big on the Saints. I still don't know what the right side was.
This is a great jumping off point. If they play again, I kind of feel like Saints, honestly. It's in San Francisco.
Even in San Fran, yeah.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, I was only watching it on Red Zone, so I'd need to go through it again. But the Football Outsiders had Saints with a better game grade. And I think it was basically like 13 yards of play, San Fran, just explosion, kind of trick plays all over the stop. And then the Saints just success rate, 6 yards of play, just chop, chop, chop. So, yeah, I don't know, to be honest.
It was crazy game.
They had what was their lead in the first half at home? Like the fact that they had that lead and couldn't put it away was pretty wild.
Yeah, touchdowns on the first 4 drives, I think, and like the first team to lose that since 2000 or something mental. Yeah, crazy game.
Crazy game. The NFC is obviously very much one to be watching. Right, guys, that's it. We're done. We will be back a bit earlier next week on Wednesday. The Matchbook Christmas party is on Wednesday night, so one of those things are gonna. Yeah, one of those things are gonna. Yeah, I've got to go to make a public appearance, Prof. You know yourself, mate. Just one of those things. So that's it. We're done. Don't forget, if you are enjoying the podcast on the podcast platforms, please give us a 5-star rating on YouTube, or not even on iTunes. And if you are on YouTube or any of our platforms, please leave some comments. Get in touch with us during the live broadcasts. We will answer your questions the best we can. Best of luck. Week 15. Cannot believe where the time is going. Week 15. Anyway, the best of luck. We've got some good solid bets, and hopefully we get some winners.